Now, you became athletic director here roughly around the time that a lot of this concussion awareness and a lot of the studies picked up. So I know that you haven't been here to see the transition. Mm-hmm. But since you've been here, have you seen a change in the protocol for what happens when a concussion occurs, for how it's tracked, for awareness? Have you seen any of those changes?
It's really happened industry-wide. And it's something that probably needed to be done, versus the days when I played, which was a long time ago. But really in the last few years, we've seen quite a transformation in the way we deal with head injuries. And it's all for the positive. Our coaches support it, administrators support it. Student athletes sometimes get a little shaky about it because they're used to going back in and wanting to go back in and play. But they're very understanding. I know, the 4 football years that I've been at Kent State, I don't think we've ever had a student athlete fight us on it. Obviously, a lot of them would like to go back in, like I say, but they're very understanding. They're very aware of the issue. They watch television, they see ESPN, they see what the NFL is doing. And on the college level, it really has become a focal point. I know I go to athletic directors' conferences, and we often get presentations from the leading experts in the country on concussions and head injuries. There's protocols now that our training staff works with, and our doctors, that are on the sideline to support that. I'm on the sideline quite a bit, so I do get some sense of what's going on when somebody has a head injury and how they're treated. I, in fact, probably watch it closer myself than I've ever watched it before, and I know just from my layman, on the sideline, a guy who played and a guy who coached, I probably watch head injuries more than I ever have, as far as even recommending to the doctors, even when I'm on the sidelines, that maybe got hit in the head and things like that. I think we owe that to the people that are playing. That's in all the sports, but I'm referring mostly to football here. But we owe that to the people that are playing. Head injuries are serious, just like all injuries are serious. But head injuries can be obviously for a lot longer than a broken ankle or broken knee or something like that. And obviously we've taken notice of that at the college level, much like they have at the pro level. And it's great that we have the leading experts in the country working with us on this. But I've got 100% confidence in our training staff, Trent Stratton and his group, along with Dr. Pakin and our other doctors, our Summa healthcare doctors. They're really up on the latest technology and the latest diagnosis and prognosis and treatment. So I feel really comfortable with it, and I think our numbers have been fairly consistent, as far as even during this transformational process, when there's probably more you'd think there'd be more being diagnosed because we're watching it closer, but I think our numbers have been fairly consistent over the last few years.
Now, when athletics and academics, when those things can bleed together, now how do academics fit into the mission of the athletic department? How important is that still?
Academics?
Yeah.
Oh, it's of utmost importance. That's why we're here. I mean, we're here to educate student athletes, and I tell that to parents, and I tell that to prospects that are sitting on that same couch that you're sitting on. I say that all the time, that's our number one priority. So few of our student athletes go on to make any type of professional career or any type of full-time career out of athletics, and so it's paramount that while they're here, they get a meaningful degree and something that they can work into the rest of their life, because that's really why we're here. And so if you see the type of resources that we've put towards academics and the kind of numbers that we're putting out now, our student athletes are putting out, and our coaches, it's extremely important our coaches understand the level of importance that we place on it, because they're the ones that are going out recruiting future prospects, future students, and to make sure that they know that these young people can not only cut it in the classroom but also in their competitive arenas. That's critical to us, and I think you see in our last few semesters we continue to rise every year, and our GPA in this last spring semester was our highest in recorded history, since 1982. So that says a lot for our coaches and for our student athletes who are really taking it to heart.
As someone in your position, do you know, and speaking of concussions, do you know how many classes student athletes have missed due to concussions?
That's a good question. I don't know specifically. I do know when we have our meetings, our weekly meetings, staff meetings, we talk about student athlete issues, and one of the things that comes up oftentimes is, well, we had an injury X sport. Sometimes it's soccer, sometimes it's field hockey or whatever. And our Randall Richmond, who runs our student services area, will talk about how his people or himself possibly have called the professors to make sure that they know that X-athlete had a concussion and they may or may not be in class. I also recognize there's times we had a women's basketball player, I think, that was concussed recently. And so I do recognize that fact because I ask, but we also talk about it in meetings when it becomes the point where they may or may not be able to go to class, that we have that covered from an academic services angle.
Okay, so you don't look at the numbers specifically, but you talk with coaches.
Correct.
Trainers.
Yeah, I don't have every medical report run across my desk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Trent's job, and with him and the trainers, and then anything that could affect their academic progress, then they shoot to us to make sure that we have it covered, so that we contact their professors and get in contact with people that they need to be in contact with on campus. Sometimes that's housing, because oftentimes with concussions they have to stay at home, they have to be in the dark, they have to be quiet, that sort of thing. So residence halls, other people that we would need to contact on campus, oftentimes that occurs too.
Have you ever had a professor that gave you any pushback because the student had to be out with a concussion?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Do you feel that concussions and because of missing class, do you feel like it's becoming a problem at all?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a problem. But then again, I'm not the one missing class either.
Okay.
But I don't think we haven't done any study on it, but I don't think there's been any data of any sort, anecdotal or otherwise, that you could say, X player had a concussion, they missed 5 classes, and so their grade went from an A to a B because of missed class or because of what they didn't catch up on. Yeah, I haven't seen anything such as that, nor have we looked at that. I wouldn't think it'd be a lot different than just missing a class, due to travel, for instance. Some of our sports miss some class time due to travel. So I would hope our student athletes have the ability to pick it up once they do get back, that they'd have the ability to make it up just like they would if they're on a travel.
Mm-hmm. How do you view, say the quarterback of the football team has to miss class for 2 weeks? Mm-hmm. Just how do you view that? Is it just something that, you just want to monitor the kid, make sure he's okay, make sure he's healthy moving forward? But is there any part of you that is concerned because academics are so important that that's almost unavoidable? Or is there any part of you that's concerned about that?
I think your first part, yeah, we're always concerned if they're missing class. I mean, whether it's for travel or an injury or, death in the family. We have people missing class because of death in families or other, emergencies that we don't foresee. So, yeah, we're always, concerned about that. From the specific concussion issue, we have to make sure that the doctors are the ones helping us there, the ones that are treating them, the ones that are diagnosing them, and they're the ones who let us know and let them know when they're able to go back, to handle the stresses of being in a classroom, whether it's the lights or the sound or the just general thought process that goes along with that. So yeah, I think we're always concerned when they miss class. I'm more concerned obviously about their health when they're missing class due to a concussion versus when they're missing it due to an unforeseen emergency. Yeah. I want them to be fully recovered and fully healthy before they get back in there to do the battle, so to speak, just like they would on a football field, with your example of a quarterback. So that's probably my overriding concern. We're fortunate here, and it's not every student athlete, but we have 450 student athletes, and we're fortunate here that they stay up on their work. We have issues from time to time academically with some of the young men and young ladies, but for the most part, they have a great responsibility for when they miss class, primarily due to travel and those sort of things, that they have this ability to make it up either ahead of time or after. And it really hasn't suffered in their grades, obviously, with the kind of grades they've been producing.
So professors have been fairly flexible.
Absolutely,
understanding.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's whether it happens in sports or it happens at the rec center or it happens when they're up skiing or that stuff happens. I mean, that's life. And yes, they do play intercollegiate athletics. I understand that, but they could be recreational skiing this weekend and concuss themselves, and our student life people would treat it just like we do in athletics, with the same care, with the same diagnosis, and that's why it would be unfortunate if a faculty member looked at it that as a student athlete versus a student that was skiing. It's the same injury. We should still have the same concern and the same responsibility for that student, whether it's a student athlete or a student.
Do you send any type of report to the NCAA as far as injuries or concussions?
Not from an athletic director's responsibility. Our department may,
Okay.
but that would be handled by Trent.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what the reporting system is. If it is, it'd be handled through Trent.
Okay. As far as athletic recruiters for the university, the question has come up before. Would you say that athletic recruiters should have access to concussion history? Say recruiting some kid for
Athletic
football?
recruiters. Now, what's
At the university level. So,
like an assistant coach that's out recruiting, or you mean that people that are looking at coming to school at our place?
yeah, high school students. So,
Gotcha.
a
So,
senior in high school.
Let me
playing-
throw it a different way. So it'd be in similar fashion to where the crime statistics are reported through an agency, a federal agency. So everyone has access to crime on every campus in America. That parents. I know I'm a parent of a prospective student, so I can go into any university in the country and I can find out their crime statistics.
Anyway, if you were
So what you're saying is, would that be helpful for parents and prospective student athletes to have a concussion index on every athletic department in the country, something like that? Is that kind of what you're asking?
say you're recruiting for football for Texas, and I'm some high school wide receiver.
Gotcha.
Do you think that you should have access to my concussion history? Is
Oh,
what I'm
you're
looking
talking
for.
about the person now.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm the high school coach recruiting you, and should I have access to your high school information?
Well, college coach recruiting me.
I'm sorry, college.
In
but
high school.
But have access to your high school information, injuries in high school.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Specifically talking about concussions,
Yeah.
because that's something that as they
But I
go-
think overall, we're making an investment in that person. And that's a good question. It's kind of that sharing of information on both sides. Just like I said,
Yeah.
should athletic departments be sharing all their injury information, to the prospects? It's a good question. Obviously, there's a lot of protections in place, especially for minors. So it would also run into that same area. Sports Illustrated did a feature story about 2 or 3 years ago on the number of freshman student athletes who had criminal records. And there's only a few states where you can actually look at juvenile criminal records. I think Florida and a couple others. But that was interesting too, because that's, again, in most states that's protected. Would we want to know about that? I think we would.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting question. I hadn't thought much about that. I'd love to have, obviously, transparency and open information on everything. But I also understand I have 3 daughters, teenage daughters. I understand privacy and privacy for those 18 and under. I get that, or under 18. Good question. I think we could debate that for a while. What's good for the goose, good for the gander? I don't know.
So you don't quite have an answer right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I formed a full opinion on it. I think it needs to be one way or another. I think you fully protect those that are under age 18, which we do right now, or you fully open it up. I don't think you're halfway there. I think you're all the way this way or all the way this way, and being all the way this way right now, which is where we're at, is fully, for those juveniles to be fully protected. I think is a positive thing.